put Cincinnati on the clock with a pass rusher available, to me, that fits the bill. When I think about Trey Hendrickson and how he's been able to win with his motor, his flawless technique, I think he would be the perfect muse for Mikael Williams to see every day, to see someone who is so technical, so refined, to be able to mimic and copy that on a daily basis will only enhance his game. So when I look at Williams as a power player opposite, because remember, he's going to step in for Sam Hubbard. He is going to be the physical freak, the guy that can not only be stout against the run, but be the complementary pass rusher to Hendrickson. It buys time for him to become that double-digit sack artist that they're eventually going to need. But in the early part of his career, he can be that rugged run stopper at the point of attack. That's why I think he's the right pick for them.
Yeah, I think that's another guy where the production numbers, people are going to look at it. But, man, when you turn on the tape on it, he's getting to the quarterback. He's getting there. He's getting in the backfield. He's pushing guys around. I think that this is a good pick. It fills a need, and especially with the Hendrickson situation, what is going to happen there? They fill a need there for sure. So I love the pick, Buck. 18, the Seahawks. This is tough. This is an interesting one. I think that with the way, bringing in Sam Darnold, letting trading Geno away and bringing in Darnold, it doesn't solve the problem of we're giving up too many sacks. We're giving up too much pressure on the offensive line. So they need somebody in the interior. But I think that this is an interesting opportunity for them to get a guy that maybe they could play inside or outside. I feel like I've gone offensive line with my last couple of picks, but I'm going to go Josh Simmons here from Ohio State. Yeah. I think that this is a guy that they could play at guard, but with the health, with the health of their tackles over the last couple of years, they need a guy that can bounce outside at times. I think Simmons would be in a good spot there. It would give him a lot of growing opportunities. Gray Zabel is a guy who I was kind of going back and forth with at this slot, because I think that he could step in and play center, or he could step in and play guard. But I think this gives them that guard tackle flexibility. So Josh Simmons at 18, you are a Seattle Seahawk.
Man, look at that. Josh Simmons, one of the more talented guys. If not for the patella tear, we would be talking about him arguably being OT1. Yeah. He is super talented. When you see him, you just see him move around, dancing bear, just very physical and violent at the end of it. Good pick. And the Seattle Seahawks have been trying for years to really get the right combination of guys on that offensive line. If they get that right, this offense can go to the next level. We'll see if they can do it. So, Ned, at 19, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I know that with Todd Bowles and those guys, I just feel like there is another pass rusher in their future, given the fact that they bring in Hassan Reddick on a one-year rental. I'm just a big believer in backstopping a position of need with another guy that has similar traits. And so that's why Donovan Ezaraku from Boston College could be the pick. And he is not ideal size, doesn't necessarily have the things that you're traditionally looking for, but I saw him have 16-plus sacks in the ACC. I've seen his motor and how relentless he is in pursuit of running backs and quarterbacks. And to me, it just kind of fits what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are about on defense. And with Todd Bowles, I just know that they find various ways to put all those rushes on the field and blitz people. So Ezaraku from Boston College is the pick for them.
I love it. That's a guy that I have been mocking to Tampa Bay for a long time. So I love the fit. I think there's a lot of potential there for him to be that pass rusher that they need. They've got a few more years of Vita Vea in the middle. I think you need a guy who can win on the outside, and Ezaraku has shown that he can win consistently on the outside. Over 18% pass rush win rate. Love to see it. 20, Buck. My Denver
Don't mess
Broncos.
this up. This is your team. You can't mess this one up. Don't mess this one up.
What are we going to do? There's so many different options. Now, and here's my thought process. Every time I do a mock draft for the Broncos, it's like, I try to go into it at that 20th overall pick with a different mindset every time. Are we going to go running back? Are we going to go are we going to go defensive line? Is there, Colson Loveland still on the board? Are we going to go with him? Even though we signed Evan Ingram, I still think that wouldn't be a terrible pick. But with the way the board has fallen, Buck, this is where the Broncos are going to beef up their defensive line. The the game against Buffalo was eye-opening because their offensive line was able to run all over us in ways that we hadn't seen all season. So what they're going to do is they're going to go with Walter Nolan, the defensive lineman from Ole Miss, really young. You know, it could be an interesting pick there, but the youth is there. The run defense production is there. He can pressure the interior of the offensive line really well, push the pile. That's exactly what they need. And Sean Payton is a guy that can hone in. You know, there's been some concerns with, you know, is he coachable? Does he really love football? I think Sean Payton could absolutely get this kid to where they need to go. John Franklin Myers is in the last year of his deal. Malcolm Roach is in the last year of his deal. Zach Allen yet to be extended. So a lot of question marks there. Walter Nolan helps boost that defensive line, gives them a really solid pick there.
So here's the thing about that. When we talk about the Broncos and their defense played lights out. Vance Joseph has found his way to really unlock the potential of that unit. We saw Patrick Surtain walk away Defensive Player of the Year award. The thing that I do know, if he's going to go back to back, man, if you got a lot of pressure players up front, the ball floats and he can pick them off and make more plays. Walter Nolan, to me, when I watch him at the point of attack, explosive, kind of slippery, very violent in his approach. I understand the concerns that people have about, hey, does he love it and those things. But in terms of as a player, I don't have many concerns because he's a dominant player. So here we are. We're 21. And if this was taking place on draft night, all the conversation would be about Shedeur Sanders not going. Yeah. So now we're at 21 with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The guy just came off a visit a few days ago where he talked about Mike Tomlin reminding him of his dad. Well, I'm going to say daddy saves him in this situation. Mike Tomlin takes Shedeur Sanders, 21, for the Pittsburgh Steelers to give them the quarterback of the future. And I know Mason Rudolph is there. Possibly Aaron Rodgers is there. Why not get someone that can handle that? And when you think about the big personalities that have donned the Steelers uniform, I don't think Mike Tomlin is afraid to deal with all that comes with Shedeur Sanders. If he's at 21, I think the Steelers raced a card in, and he is the new QB1 of the Steelers going forward.
I like the pick. I think it's a great fit. And if there's any coach in the NFL, that is going to help Shedeur with the transition from college to NFL, it's going to be Mike Tomlin. We've seen how this dude operates on a daily basis. It's one of my favorite coaches to see, behind the scenes stuff on, because he is a football coach. And that is exactly what is going to help Shedeur Sanders succeed in this league. I think that he has the tools. He's got the accuracy. He's got the mobility. All the talk about, him not being able to play at this level, he will be able to play at that level. Get him an offensive line and get him receivers who can catch the ball, and he's going to get it to them. Guaranteed. They're going to win some football games, and it's going to be awesome to watch. 22, Bucky, the Los Angeles Chargers. It still sounds weird to say. I feel like they hit a home run last draft. Joe Alt was awesome. They got a really great receiver. Harbaugh is going to be interesting in this draft. And with the board falling this way, they could go Kenneth Grant, but I think they're going to add a tight end here. And I think it's going to be Harbaugh's guy, Colston Loveland. Fills a need. He can play in line. You can play him in the slot. You can play him all over the field. Fantastic route runner, really nuanced. Can attack the middle of the field really well. I love the fit, and give Justin Herbert a great weapon. Keep giving this offense more weapons. Ladd McConkey was awesome last year. I think Loveland could really help take that offense to the next level.
Now, the thing about Loveland that you like is, one, Jim Harbaugh knows him. He does give them a target over the middle of the field. He is super versatile in terms of being able to really be a jumbo wide receiver in a tight end's body. He does a lot for them. And as I'm looking at what they were able to do really with their hands kind of tied behind their back offensively, Ladd McConkey has a playmate in Loveland, should open it up. And as they're running the football with Najee Harris, I see big things for the Chargers offense as they continue to eventually make a move at taking over the division under Jim Harbaugh. So now I'm at the Green Bay Packers, and here's the thing. You've created quite the dilemma if I'm the Green Bay Packers, because the Green Bay Packers are a team that kind of, they kind of march to the beat of their own drum. They typically take good players, really good players from big schools, and they find a way to figure it out. Well, I'm the Green Bay Packers, and we got Jair Alexander. We have him dangling out there. We let him explore his trade options, and so I see Jade Barron right there. But it's not necessarily the most pressing need, but I think he's too good for them to bypass. And even though they already have a nickel defender, I just think with Jeff Hafley's defense and how they are a vision and break defense, looking for zone corners, guys that can make plays on the ball, Jade Barron is just too good to bypass. I think you can put him wherever you need to put him, inside, outside. The versatility that he would add, it would just be another Swiss Army knife. And even though they went and got Nate Hobbs from the Raiders and put him in there, and he's kind of a nickel corner, I don't think you can have enough DBs that can play musical chairs. So to me, best player available, let's go to Jade Barron.
You can never have enough. You can't have too many DBs. Well, speaking of DBs, Buck, at 24, I'm going to have the Minnesota Vikings take Nick Emenwari from South Carolina. Malachi Starks is still on the board, but this gives Brian Flores a guy that he can play in multiple positions. You could play him as a linebacker. You could play him as a deep safety. You could play him as a box safety. You could play him pretty much anywhere along the defense. Hot take having him go before Starks, because I think Starks is by far and away the best deep ball threat guy in the class among the safeties. Nick Emenwari, to me, kind of fits what Brian Flores's philosophy is on defense, to use guys in multiple positions. So for that reason, 24, Nick Emenwari. I like this dude in this defense. South Carolina has been running a really strong defense, and it's gotten a lot of these guys pro ready. And Emenwari, to me, the athletic traits are there, the instincts are there. Clean up the tackling a bit, and I think we've got a really strong candidate there to be just that defensive masterpiece that Flores could use.
Man, I dig it. And Flores does love DBs. He loves high IQ DBs, guys that can come down. And I think about Harrison Smith has played for so long. At some point, they have to get a suitable replacement. Emenwari can step in for that. So then we are at the Houston Texans. We're at 25, and they lose Stephon Diggs. Tank Dell is out for an injury. Even though they made a trade for Christian Kirk, they still need more around Nico Collins and really more to help the quarterback. How about Matthew Golden from Texas staying in the state, giving them a speed receiver to kind of stretch things out? Even though they love Tank Dell's been hurt 2 years in, like, he hasn't been available when they really need him. Let's go and get a speed receiver that can do some of the dirty work that you want to see from your wide receiver 2, 3. Matthew Golden, bottom of the first round. Let's take him to Houston.
I like it. It gives them a true Z guy. And when Tank Dell does come back from his injury, they can use him primarily from the slot, where he was really successful. Nico Collins has become one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Who could have seen that coming? I absolutely love that pick. I think it's a perfect compliment. And that takes us to 26, the Los Angeles Rams on the clock. A couple different ways that they could go here. I like the prospect of a Josh Connolly Jr. here for the Rams. But I think right now where they need a ton of help is in that secondary. So I'm going to go with a little bit of a hot take. Trey Amos from Ole Miss.
It's not hot. Yeah, okay.
This is a dude, when I watch him play, I see a guy who isn't afraid to get a little dirty, isn't afraid to put his paws in there, really solid ball skills, a guy who's not afraid to come down and help and run support. I think that this is a good opportunity for them to keep building this secondary after losing pieces like Jalen Ramsey in the last few years. They have Akella Witherspoon and Darius Williams, but this gives them a guy that they can work with, they can mold. He's been around for a little bit. It's really solid cornerback, and I like the fit.
Look, I dig it. I think it makes a lot of sense. You talk about Trey Amos. Trey Amos is one of those guys at cornerback, because we're in this cluster of players that are really good, but you're trying to stack them. To me, he's about as safe and sound as you can find at that position, can do a lot of things. And as teams look for those press corners, those guys that can put their hands on people, he is one of the best at being able to do it. And so that takes us to the Baltimore Ravens at 27. I have been around this game long enough to know that the Baltimore Ravens just tend to take the best player available. It just always appears to be the right pick for them. Derek Harmon from Oregon.
Oh.
And the reason why is, look, he's not this player, but they're going to talk about Haloti Nada a lot, and they're not the same, but the toughness, the intensity that he brings on the interior, you put him beside Justin Madubuike, you have two feisty dudes on the inside, and that is going to create opportunities for the guys on the outside. He's too good of a player for the Baltimore Ravens to bypass him. That's why he has to come off the board at 27.
I like it. I bolster up that interior, man. You can never have too many big guys. And I think his athleticism on the defensive front and his violence when he's pushing the pile, man, this is the dude that is scary for running backs to see, for quarterbacks to see. I think in that purple and black, it's going to be even scarier. The Haloti Nada stuff might come back just in a different way. He's a scary human being. 28, the Lions. This is an interesting pick as well. They have Marcus Davenport. They brought him in. Josh Pascal is still there. Aiden Hutchinson coming back from his injury last season. I still think that they could add more pass rushers, and Dan Campbell is not going to be a guy to shy away from bringing in more talent. And this is a guy who I've gone back and forth with on keeping him in the first round, because there are some, this is another guy with like, does he love football, coaching concerns, not anything else off the field that's too concerning. But James Pierce Jr. from Tennessee, when this guy gets going, he is just as good as pass rusher as anyone else in this class. I think he brings a lot of juice. They can use him in different sets and use him in different positions. They can use him in the A gap, over the B gap, outside, wide 9. They can use him anywhere. And Dan Campbell, just like Sean Payton is a guy that can kind of reel in those personalities, I think Dan Campbell is another guy that can reel in some of those personalities that are coming from college that, maybe they just need a coach that's a little more invested. Maybe they just need a little more push. I think Dan Campbell could absolutely bring it out. So James Pierce at 28 to the Lions.
One of the best pass rushers. I think arguably you could say he's the most natural pass rusher of anybody in the class. It's the off the field stuff. It's the character concerns that have people worried about whether he could be a first round pick. If we're just looking at the tape, it's hard not to say that this is a top 15 player given what he was able to do. So now I have the Washington Commanders. The Washington Commanders are coming off a great year where the selection of a quarterback brought them all the way back. Well, now that the quarterback has shown that he is elite, maybe a top 5 player, I want to make sure that I keep adding things to the toolbox. So we got him Deebo Samuel in the spring. We have Scary Terry McLaurin on the outside. But how about one of his buddies from LSU, Mason Taylor, being a big-time tight end over the middle of the field? They know each other. They got a connection, the synergy. Zach Ertz is there for at least a year to show him the ropes. And now I have a player with Hall of Fame bloodlines, Dad Jason Taylor, Uncle Zach Thomas. I'm not saying that Mason Taylor is going to wear a gold jacket, but I just think the bloodlines are too strong for him to fail. Let's put him in the middle of that offense for the Commanders.
Bucky, my goodness. Yeah, that's one of my draft crushes. You're hey, I love it. No, that dude is an underrated blocker. Another tight end who I've, being a Broncos guy, targeting him as well. So you can use him off ball, you can use him on ball, you can use him in the slot. Just a really solid athlete and pass catcher. I love that pick. Man, the 2 tight end sets with him and Ertz are going to be crazy. That's going to be absolutely nuts. Buck 30, the Buffalo Bills, they gotta do something here. Now, this is tough because I think for the Buffalo Bills last year, having the Chiefs jump them to get Xavier Worthy, they seem to do fine on offense, right? The receivers that they had worked. They give the big extension to Khalil Shakir. They get Josh Palmer, Keon Coleman's there, who had a really solid rookie season. I don't think wide receiver is the move here. They did get Joey Bosa this offseason, but man, what if they went out and they got another safety to add to this defense? What if they went and got Malachi Starks to add to this defense? Someone they could just sit back there. Let Taylor Rapp come down in the box where he is really successful. Let DeMar Hamlin keep coming down in the box and playing run defense. where they're really solid. I think that Starks could allow them to play a little more cover 1 or cover 3, whatever they want to do. Just let him have the deep third of the field. Let him cover everything in the back end. I think that this would be a solid pick for Sean McDermott.
Yeah, he does a really good job of making sure they have the right kind of guys. And when I think about Starks' temperament, like they typically are blue collar, no nonsense guys that just come to work, hard hit and lunch bell guys. It fits because remember, when we're looking at players, we're looking at who fits the culture. So I can see that being a nice fit for them. And when they've been at their best, they've had 2 really good safeties that have been able to do it. So now you leave me with the evil empire, the Kansas City Chiefs, the team that is always in the Super Bowl, but they're beginning to leak a little oil on defense. My initial thought was they got to have someone that can play alongside Chris Jones. He's the only viable threat on the interior. But when I look at the board, I could take a Kenneth Grant, but he's more of a run stopper than a pass rusher. I want to help this team get better, and I think they have to get better in the secondary. Trent McDuffie moved from slot to outside, and even though he's been an all-pro player in the slot, they moved him outside. I don't think he's the same player. So I'm going to take a corner so I can kick him back inside. I'm going to take Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky. I'm going to have him play on the outside, move Trent McDuffie back inside, and now our secondary is locked and loaded and ready to go.
I like it. I think they need to add a lot of pieces in a lot of different areas. Offensive line is obviously one of those spots where they've had a ton of questions, and in the Super Bowl, having to play Tooney at left tackle was
all
rough.
Bad.
It was rough to watch. So I like, I like the Hairston pick. I think that gives them a boost in the secondary. I've seen a lot of mock drafts with them taking like Connerly in that spot. Or someone like Gray Zabel in that area as well. So I dig the pick. Let McDuffie roam around in the back end. We're at 32 now, Buck, final pick of the first round. And this is an interesting one because I'm not seeing any Georgia players really high up on my board for the Eagles to take. So this is kind of
it's a new experience for you.
You've left me in a rough spot. How am I supposed to make an accurate pick for the Eagles when I can't take a player from the University of Georgia? This is ridiculous. No, I think that this is an area where the Eagles could add, and this might be a hot take, but they could add to the receiver room and add somebody who can like actually boost it up and not just be another guy in there. They trade for Jahan Dotson last year. AJ Brown it is one of the best receivers in the league. Devontae Smith is doing his thing in the league. What about a guy who's not afraid to do the dirty work? They love to run the ball there in Philly. Saquon was awesome last year. I really, really love Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State. I think this is a guy that they can play him outside, but the majority of his snaps came from the slot, and he was doing a lot of dirty work. So it's not a guy who, you take in the first round and expect him to be 1,000-yard receiver. This is a guy who is going to help your team continue to evolve on the offensive side of the ball, in the screen game, in the run game. He'll go dig out a safety. He'll go block on the edge for a screen. I think that Egbuka might not be a guy that they need necessarily right now, but it's definitely a guy that I love. I like the potential fit here as a guy who can still help this team evolve and help Jalen Hurts evolve as a quarterback. He's got the smarts. He's got the blocking skills. Egbuka to the Eagles at 32.
That is crazy. And the reason why it's crazy because the Eagles will take the best player available. They will take somebody that's a trench warrior. But then when you look what is left on the board, where could they go? Egbuka in the slot is a nice pick. They could consider like a Donovan Jackson or somebody in there. But then it really comes down to the luxury of being the defending champs and taking players. And so it makes a lot of sense to me. And so like the thing that stands out to me, like now that we've gone through it, is how quickly things can change with one pick. So you taking Shamar Stewart early in the top 10 completely kind of set it kind of threw the board in a bit of a tizzy because all of a sudden now Mason Graham is outside the top 10, which forces the Niners to make a pick. And so it just kind of resets everything. And we see how quickly the quarterback fall could happen. The entire spring we talk about, it's going to be Shedeur Sanders and Jackson Dart is climbing up. But when you start putting names and making matchmaker scenarios, you can see where, look, man, this scenario, if I don't put him in Pittsburgh, where does Shedeur Sanders go? Like, we could talk about, oh, the Rams could take him at 26, maybe, but there's not another landing spot. And so the thing to watch on draft night is if Shedeur doesn't go, 2, 3, 9, if he doesn't go Cleveland, Giants, or the Saints, it could be a long night for him. And if it takes a long time for him to go, it's going to take a long time for Jackson Dart and Milroe and Tyler Shutt and anybody else that they're talking about being one of those quarterbacks. So interesting exercise, a lot of fun. I'm glad you took care of your Broncos. I'm sure the people in Broncos land are excited about bringing that in. But here's what I do know. I know by the time that we post this, you will have already done 3 more mock drafts going through scenarios because that's what you do.
I will. I will. Hey, Bucky, I think one of my favorite picks of yours, you sent Ezeruku to Tampa Bay, but man, that Kelvin Banks pick to Miami, that's one of my favorites. Obviously, you taking JT in the top 5. That pick for me is the one that threw a wrench in my plans because I could have the Raiders taking JT. I could have the Bears taking JT. So this is always a fun exercise. Bucky, like I said, a big fan of your work. This was an awesome time. Can't wait to do many more of these with you in the future.
So here's what we'll do. After the draft is all said and done, we'll go back and we'll have like a little draft recap and go through the things. We'll see where we were right, where we were wrong, and some of the best and maybe worst picks of the 2025 draft. But thanks so much for coming on. It was great doing this with you, Patrick. Make sure all you guys check out Bleav and Broncos to see what's going on in Mile High Country. Until next time, I'm Bucky Brooks, and we'll talk to you soon.